The city was alive with lights and motion. Towering buildings of glass and steel reflected the neon glow from advertisements and hollow screens. Flying cars zipped past the sky lanes, leaving streaks of color like comets. On the streets below, people hurried in all directions, carrying packages, talking on communicators, or simply trying to keep up with the rhythm of the city. Inside one of the tallest towers, a man named Rami hurried down a polished hallway. He was tall, with neatly combed hair and a tailored suit that shimmered under the ceiling lights. Rami was a billionaire, known for his inventions and ventures in space exploration. His mind was always moving, always planning. Today, he was on his way to a private launch demonstration, a step closer to his dream of building the first human colony on Mars. Rami barely noticed the people around him. Assistants carried tablets and folders with flight schedules. Engineers muttered over digital blueprints, and security bots scanned the corridors. Everything was a blur except the thought of the launch. He was eager to see the final test of his new shuttle's AI systems. Meanwhile, on the same floor, a janitor named Tano was quietly sweeping the lobby. Tano was not a man people usually paid attention to. He wore a simple uniform, and his movements were calm and deliberate. He had been cleaning this building for years. He knew every corner, every hidden panel, every small machine that hummed beneath the floors. Tano was careful, observant, and he noticed things most people ignored. As Tano swept near the elevator area, his eyes flicked to a sleek, self-driving car waiting outside. Its design was sharp, smooth, almost alive. Rami approached the car, talking to his digital assistant about the launch. He was distracted, as always. His focus was on the future, on the colony, on success. Tano froze. Something was wrong. At first it was subtle. A small flicker in the car's lights, a sound too soft for most ears to catch. The sensors on the vehicle seemed off. His heart quickened. He did not know exactly what it meant, but he had learned to trust these instincts. Without thinking about social rank, without considering the wealth of the man stepping toward the car, Tano shouted, "Don't get in that car." Rami paused mid-step. He looked back, frowning. Who was shouting at him? Why would a janitor yell at a billionaire? The lobby was crowded, but the voice seemed loud and clear, carrying an urgency that made him stop. "Excuse me?" Rami said, turning fully to face Tano. "Who are you?" "Why would you say that?" Tano wiped his hands on his cloth, trying to remain calm. "I'm Tano. I work here. Something is wrong with that car. I saw a glitch in its system, something dangerous." "Please do not get in," Rami blinked. A part of him wanted to brush it off. Accidents happen, yes, but the city's technology was supposed to be perfect. Self-driving cars were programmed with fail-safes, and yet the seriousness in Tano's eyes made him pause. The man looked ordinary, but his expression was extraordinary. There was no panic, only certainty. For a few seconds, Rami just stood there, his hand on the car door handle. His mind raced, considering whether this was nonsense or a real warning. The lobby felt suddenly quiet. People passed without noticing, but for Rami, time slowed. Finally, curiosity and caution outweighed pride. He stepped back. "All right," he said. "Explain," Tano nodded. He pointed toward the sensors and cameras built into the car's frame. "I noticed something in the main control system while cleaning the lobby's surveillance panels. The car's AI is behaving strangely. It is linked to an external program. I do not know who sent it, but it could harm anyone inside." Rami stared. He had seen thousands of systems, built AI models, and controlled spacecraft. He understood the danger immediately. The idea that someone could hack into this level of automation was terrifying, but it was also a challenge, a puzzle, and Rami loved puzzles. "I need to check this immediately," he said, stepping away from the car. Tano moved beside him, leading the way to a nearby observation deck where Rami could access the vehicle remotely. As they reached the terminal, Rami activated the interface. Streams of data appeared on the screen, lines of code, sensor readings, and control commands. At first glance, everything seemed normal. But then a pattern emerged. Tiny signals, almost invisible, were trying to override the car's safety protocols. "They are trying to control it remotely," Tano said quietly. "Someone wants it to move in a dangerous way." Rami's mind raced. He realized that if he had entered the car, the result could have been catastrophic, possibly life-threatening. He turned to Tano. "How did you see this?" Tano shrugged. "I notice things. Small things. Most people do not pay attention." Machines make mistakes, patterns appear, and someone like me, I see them. Rami looked at him, a mixture of surprise and respect in his eyes. This man, a janitor, had saved him from a danger he did not even know existed. His mind flashed with the irony. Here he was, a billionaire working on spaceships and AI systems, nearly outsmarted by a human who swept floors. "Thank you," Rami said sincerely. "You just saved my life." Tano nodded, but he did not smile. "You are welcome. But we need to act fast. The control signals are still active. If someone knows we are watching, they might try again." Rami activated his personal security protocols, isolating the car from external networks. He watched as the interference disappeared. The car powered down safely, the lights dimming as the threat ended. For a moment, both men just breathed. The lobby returned to normal. People continued walking past, unaware of the danger that had lurked so close. The city's rhythm did not pause for threats or heroes. Rami turned to Tano. "You need to come with me. We have to figure out who did this." Tano hesitated. His job was to clean, not to chase criminals or fight hackers. But something in Rami's tone convinced him. This was bigger than a job. This was a threat that could harm many people, and Tano had already seen the first warning signs. Together they left the building and moved toward Rami's high-tech mobile lab. The streets were filled with noise and light, but their focus was sharp. Drones hovered overhead, monitoring traffic. AI assistants guided them through the shortest path. And yet, for all the technology, it was human intuition and courage that mattered most. As they approached the lab, Rami spoke. "Most people would not have listened to you. They would have trusted the car blindly." Tano smiled faintly. "Most people do not pay attention. But humans notice patterns, make decisions, and act fast. Machines are only as good as the rules they are given." Rami nodded. He realized something important. Humans might not be perfect, but in a world dominated by machines, their ability to see, feel, and think independently made them powerful. Sometimes more powerful than the most advanced AI. Inside the lab, Rami connected to the city network, tracing the signals that had taken control of the car. The patterns led them toward a sector of the city filled with old industrial buildings, abandoned factories, and hidden labs. "This is where it started," Rami said, eyes narrowing. "Someone is trying to test new ways to hack technology. We need to find them before they cause more harm." Tano nodded. "Then we start tonight. Every machine has a weakness. Every hacker makes a mistake. We just need to find it." Outside, the city continued its dance of lights and sound. Flying cars zipped past, pedestrians hurried, and neon signs flickered. No one noticed the quiet janitor and the billionaire preparing to face a hidden threat together. No one realized that their partnership might prevent disaster. For Tano, it was just another night of watching, noticing, and acting. For Rami, it was a lesson in humility and respect. Together, they were a team. One human's courage, one human's intelligence, and a city full of technology that could either help or harm. And in the shadows of the skyscrapers, something waited. Someone had planned this attack, and they would not stop easily. But for now, Rami and Tano had survived the first strike. And that was enough to change everything. The warning had been heard. The action had begun. And in the heart of the city, humans proved that even against machines, their courage and awareness could make the difference between life and death. Night had fallen over the city. The neon lights reflected in the wet streets, creating a maze of colors that twisted and shifted with every movement. Flying cars glided overhead, their trails of light slicing through the dark sky. On the ground, pedestrians hurried home, unaware of the danger that had just touched the lives of Rami and Tano. Inside Rami's mobile lab, a high-tech vehicle that could extend into a fully equipped workstation, the billionaire and the janitor studied the signals that had tried to control the self-driving car. Screens glowed with lines of code, mapping the interference patterns and the control attempts. Every blink of the interface revealed a tiny piece of a much larger puzzle. "This is more than just a prank," Rami said, his voice low and serious. He tapped on a holographic display, zooming in on the source of the signals. "Someone is experimenting. They are testing a way to override city vehicles. This could endanger thousands of people if left unchecked." Tano nodded, his eyes scanning the data with quiet focus. "It is dangerous. Whoever sent these signals knows how to hide their tracks. But every system leaves traces. Every hacker makes a mistake. We just need to find it." Rami studied Tano for a moment. The janitor had an unusual combination of patience and sharp perception. He noticed patterns that machines could miss and interpreted small errors that could lead to a breakthrough. Most people would have dismissed the warning or the anomaly. Tano had acted immediately. His instincts had saved Rami's life. Rami leaned back, deep in thought. We cannot rely on the authorities. By the time they trace this, the hacker will be gone and more cars could be affected. We have to act ourselves. Tano glanced at him. Then we start tonight. I know the city well. We can use old maintenance routes, hidden entrances, and access points most people forget. If the hacker is hiding in the industrial sector, we can get close without being detected. The two of them left the lab, moving through the quiet streets. Rami's high-tech vehicle followed silently, but they did not rely on it. Tano led the way, his knowledge of alleys, hidden doors, and service tunnels allowing them to move unseen. As they approached the industrial sector, the air changed. The bright lights of the city gave way to shadows and darkness. Old factories, long abandoned, loomed like silent giants. Rusted cranes and metal scaffolding created a maze that seemed almost alive. The hum of machines, mostly dormant, added a subtle tension to the night. This is where the hacker is likely hiding, Tano said, pointing toward a cluster of old buildings. These structures are easy to monitor and hard to reach. Perfect for testing illegal systems, Rami nodded. His mind was already running calculations and simulations. He could see how the hacker might have used the abandoned factories as a control hub. We need to be careful. One mistake and we could trigger their defenses. Tano smiled faintly. Humans have a way of seeing what machines cannot. Let's move. They advanced cautiously, slipping through the shadows. Tano pointed out small sensors, cameras, and even a few drones hovering silently, almost invisible. Rami realized that the hacker had anticipated intruders. Every entrance was monitored, every passage covered. Yet despite the technology, Tano moved with confidence, avoiding detection at every turn. Suddenly, a soft alarm echoed through the area. A drone had detected movement. Lights flickered on the walls and a robotic voice called out, scanning for intruders. Rami froze for a moment, but Tano acted instantly. He grabbed a metal pipe and clanged it against a wall several meters away. The noise drew the drone's attention, giving them just enough time to slip into a maintenance tunnel. The tunnel was narrow and dark, filled with the smell of oil and rust, but it offered a safe path forward. They expect us to follow obvious routes, Tano whispered. But machines cannot think outside patterns. Humans can. Rami followed silently, impressed. Every step Tano took was calculated. He used shadows, reflections, and sound to stay one step ahead. It was not brute force or advanced gadgets that kept them safe. It was observation, instinct, and quick thinking. After several minutes, they emerged into a large, dimly lit factory hall. Inside, rows of machines hummed quietly, some active, some dormant. Wires snaked across the floor like vines. At the center, a terminal glowed, connected to several drones hovering above. The hacker's base was smaller than expected, almost hidden in plain sight. Rami studied the setup. They are controlling more than just vehicles. These drones could interfere with almost any system in the city. The potential for chaos is enormous. Tano moved closer, inspecting the terminals. It is clever, but predictable. The hacker relies on repetition. Once we understand the pattern, we can stop them. They waited, watching the drones. Then, without warning, the terminal's security system activated. Lasers crisscrossed the hall, creating a cage of light designed to trap intruders. Small automated turrets emerged from hidden panels, scanning for movement. Rami felt a surge of adrenaline. His knowledge of AI told him what to do, but Tano's instincts guided every step. Together they moved in sync. Tano led, signaling when to duck, when to run, and when to freeze. Rami followed, relying on his speed and agility. One of the turrets fired. The laser missed by inches, scorching the metal floor. Rami reacted instinctively, rolling to the side. Tano had already disabled the turret with a quick throw of a wrench, short-circuiting its sensors. They think technology is stronger, Tano whispered, breathing steadily. But humans adapt faster. Rami nodded. He realized the truth in those words. The hacker had relied on machines to enforce control. But machines could be outsmarted with creativity and courage. Humans had the advantage of flexibility, intuition, and quick judgment. They moved deeper into the hall, using shadows and the layout of the machines to remain hidden. Rami noticed how Tano's eyes scanned every detail: the angle of a wire, the reflection of a light, the sound of a fan. Small observations allowed them to avoid traps and detect hidden dangers. Finally, they reached a back room. The terminal there was larger, more complex. Lines of code scrolled across multiple screens, showing connections to vehicles, drones, and other automated systems throughout the city. The hacker was monitoring everything. Rami leaned in, analyzing the network. This is the source. If we shut this down, the attacks stop. Tano observed the room carefully. We cannot destroy it recklessly. There are failsafes. If triggered, it could send all connected drones into a chaotic mode. We need precision. Rami studied the code, realizing that the hacker had underestimated the human ability to solve problems creatively. Machines could predict outcomes within set parameters, but humans could improvise, adjust, and act unpredictably. Tano began tracing the connections manually, pointing out weak spots in the system. Here, the firewall is too simple. Here, the code repeats unnecessarily. The hacker relied on patterns, but humans can notice exceptions. Rami worked alongside him, using his knowledge of AI to manipulate the system safely. Together, they formed a perfect balance: human intuition and courage paired with technological expertise. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on the screen. The hacker had detected an intrusion. The drones outside began to move, forming a defensive perimeter. Lights flashed and alarms blared throughout the factory. They know we are here, Rami said, tension rising in his voice. Tano remained calm. We expected this. Humans remain unpredictable. Let us finish the work. They acted quickly. Tano disconnected key nodes, redirecting signals in ways the hacker could not anticipate. Rami reprogrammed the drones, forcing them to return to idle mode. Each movement was precise, each decision critical. Minutes passed like hours. Sweat ran down their faces, but neither faltered. They were determined, focused, and coordinated. Finally, the last drone powered down. The alarm ceased. The factory returned to silence except for the hum of the remaining machinery. Rami exhaled deeply. We did it. The threat is neutralized for now. Tano nodded. It is not over. Someone sent this. We need to trace them before they try again. But tonight humans won. Technology is strong, but human courage and intelligence are stronger. Rami looked at Tano with respect. You saved many lives tonight. Not just mine. This city owes you more than it knows. Tano smiled faintly, returning to his calm, quiet demeanor. I only do what I must. Observing, noticing, acting. That is enough for me. Outside, the city continued to pulse with life. Lights reflected in puddles, vehicles moved through the air lanes, and people walked on the streets, unaware of the danger that had almost struck. For Rami and Tano, the night had changed everything. They had seen the power of human courage and insight in a world dominated by machines. They had witnessed how quick thinking, careful observation, and bold action could overcome threats that seemed unstoppable. And as they left the factory, the first signs of dawn touched the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. The city was safe for now, thanks to two humans who had refused to trust only technology. The unseen threat had been stopped, but the story was far from over. Somewhere, someone was planning the next move, and Tano and Rami would be ready. The city never truly slept. Even as the first rays of dawn painted the sky with soft orange and pink, the streets below were alive with movement. Flying cars glided silently above the buildings while delivery drones buzzed between towers. On the ground, early commuters hurried through the streets, unaware of the danger that had almost struck the city the night before. Rami and Tano had returned to the Billionaire's mobile lab, analyzing the data from the hacker's factory. The room glowed with holographic screens displaying code, maps, and city schematics. Rami leaned against the console, a thoughtful look on his face. The attack last night was precise. Whoever did this knows the city very well. They are not just a random hacker. They are organized, careful, and dangerous. Tano nodded, his eyes scanning the maps. Yes, and they are testing weaknesses. Every machine, every vehicle, every drone in the city is connected. They are searching for gaps, and humans can be part of the gap if we are not careful. Rami's mind was already working on the possibilities. We need to find them before they strike again. If they have access to the city network, they could target anyone, anywhere. Tano studied the city's industrial sector on the holographic display. There is a pattern. The hacker has been moving through abandoned facilities, using hidden tunnels, old maintenance shafts, and factories that have been unused for decades. We can anticipate their next move if we follow the trail carefully. Rami straightened. Then we move. Tonight we chased them down. As night fell once again, the two men prepared. Rami wore a simple dark suit to avoid drawing attention, while Tano carried a small pack with tools, scanners, and a few improvised devices. They left the mobile lab quietly, taking the streets and back alleys instead of the main avenues. The industrial sector awaited them. The abandoned factories rose like silent giants against the night sky, their rusted walls and broken windows giving the area an eerie feeling. The streets were empty, the silence almost oppressive. Tano led the way using old service tunnels and maintenance passages he knew from years of observation. They expect people to move on obvious paths, Tano said, but humans are unpredictable. That is our advantage. Rami followed silently, impressed by Tano's knowledge and intuition. Every step was measured, every corner anticipated. Even in a city dominated by technology, it was human intelligence and observation that gave them an edge. As they moved closer to the suspected hacker hideout, they noticed subtle signs of activity. A small light flickered in a broken window. A shadow moved behind a metal door, and the faint hum of machinery echoed through the empty buildings. "They are here," Rami whispered. Tano nodded. "We need to be careful. They have drones, sensors, and possibly traps. But if we move smart, we can catch them." They approached a large warehouse. The doors were partially open, revealing the glow of monitors and scattered equipment inside. Tano gestured for Rami to stay low. They slipped inside quietly, avoiding the sensors that lined the entrance. Inside, the warehouse was filled with machines, wires, and screens displaying city systems. Drones hovered silently, monitoring the room and its surroundings. In the center, a man sat at a terminal typing rapidly, unaware of the two intruders approaching. Rami's pulse quickened. "This is it. We have to act carefully. One wrong move and they will notice us." Tano moved forward using shadows and the layout of the machinery to stay hidden. He had a plan. "We need to distract them first. Draw attention away from the terminal." He picked up a small metal rod and tossed it across the room. It clanged against a metal shelf, echoing through the warehouse. The hacker's head snapped toward the sound, his eyes narrowing. Drones hovered closer, scanning for movement. Rami seized the moment. He approached the terminal, quickly accessing the system to trace the hacker's connection to the city network. Lines of code scrolled rapidly across the screen. He could see the drones, the vehicles, and even the hidden cameras the hacker had placed throughout the city. Tano continued to move around, disabling a few drones silently, cutting wires and creating small diversions. Together they worked in perfect coordination, human instinct guiding every decision, every move. The hacker realized something was wrong. He activated more drones, sending them into the warehouse. Lasers crisscrossed the room and automated defenses activated. Rami ducked under a laser, while Tano rolled behind a stack of crates. The sound of mechanical whirring filled the air as drones scanned for intruders. "They think machines can stop humans," Tano said calmly, "but humans adapt faster than any AI." Rami admired Tano's courage. Every move was calculated, precise, and fearless. They used the environment to their advantage, shadows, reflections, and angles that the machines could not interpret. Tano signaled Rami to follow. They moved toward the back of the warehouse where the main server controlling the drones and city systems was located. The hacker tried to block them, activating traps and sending drones to intercept, but Tano's quick thinking and Rami's technical knowledge allowed them to navigate the obstacles. Finally, they reached the server. It was massive, filled with cables, blinking lights, and multiple screens displaying real-time data. Rami leaned over the interface, analyzing the code. "This is the source. If we shut this down, all drones and hacked vehicles will stop immediately." Tano studied the room carefully. "We cannot destroy it recklessly. There are fail-safes. If triggered, it could send drones into chaos, harming the city. We need precision." Rami nodded. Together, they began working. Rami accessed the code, carefully rerouting signals and isolating the hacker's access. Tano monitored the drones, using improvised devices to intercept commands and redirect them safely. Minutes passed like hours. The hacker became frantic, realizing his control was slipping. He activated every defense, but Rami and Tano remained calm, working together with unmatched coordination. Finally, the last drone powered down. The alarm ceased. The warehouse fell silent except for the quiet hum of the remaining machinery. Rami exhaled deeply. We did it. The threat is neutralized for now. Tano nodded. It is not over. Someone sent this. We need to trace them before they try again. But tonight, humans won. Technology is strong, but human courage and intelligence are stronger. Rami looked at Tano with deep respect. You saved many lives tonight, not just mine. This city owes you more than it knows. Tano smiled faintly, returning to his calm demeanor. I only do what I must. Observing, noticing, acting. That is enough for me. Outside, the city continued its rhythm of light and motion. Flying cars zipped through the air lanes. Pedestrians walked on the streets and neon signs flickered, unaware of the danger that had just passed. For Rami and Tano, the night had changed everything. They had proven that human courage, observation, and quick thinking could overcome even the most advanced technology. Machines were powerful, but humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and intelligent. As they left the warehouse, the city's first signs of sunrise touched the horizon. The streets reflected the light, painting a new day full of possibilities. The unseen threat had been stopped, but the story was far from over. Somewhere, someone was planning the next move. Rami and Tano walked side by side, ready for the challenges to come. They were a team, one with wealth, knowledge, and resources, the other with intuition, observation, and courage. Together, they proved that humans could face any threat, no matter how advanced technology became. The chase was over for now, but the hunt had just begun. And in a city full of machines, humans had shown that their greatest weapon was not the technology they created, but the minds, instincts, and bravery that guided them. The city had fallen into a quiet tension. Even though the sun had risen, the streets were eerily still. Flying vehicles traced the sky lanes, but there was an underlying feeling that something dangerous was hidden in the shadows. Rami and Tano had traced the signals from the hacker's factory to a hidden laboratory deep in the industrial sector. This was the place where the attacks had originated, where the mastermind had been planning every move with precision and care. The lab was hidden behind layers of abandoned buildings, forgotten warehouses, and old maintenance tunnels. It was the perfect place for someone who wanted to work unseen, someone who trusted machines more than humans. But Rami and Tano were determined to stop them. They moved quietly, their senses alert, using every trick they had learned during their previous encounters. Tano led the way, checking every corner and scanning for surveillance systems. They rely on automation and traps, he said quietly. But humans can think in ways machines cannot. We have the advantage if we stay careful and focused. Rami followed closely, analyzing the environment with both technical knowledge and cautious attention. Every step forward was a balance of patience and courage. He realized that despite his wealth, his technology, and his intelligence, it was Tano's observation and instincts that gave them the real advantage. The entrance to the lab was hidden behind a rusted metal door. Sensors hummed softly, scanning for movement, ready to trigger alarms if intruders were detected. Tano knelt, examining the door's electronic lock. I can bypass this, he said. We have one chance. We cannot alert them too early. He worked quickly, using a small device to interface with the lock. The door clicked open silently and they slipped inside. The interior of the lab was like a maze of metal, glass, and blinking lights. Screens displayed real-time data. Drones hovered in patterns and automated defenses lined the walls. Every corner seemed alive with potential danger. This is where it all begins, Rami whispered. He could feel the intensity of the room. The hacker had built a fortress of technology, confident that no human could navigate it successfully. Tano moved forward, scanning for the first sign of life. They followed the narrow corridors until they reached a central chamber. There, sitting at a terminal surrounded by drones and robotic systems, was the mastermind behind the attacks. He was a man who believed humans were obsolete, that technology alone could control everything. He looked up as they entered, surprised but confident. Who are you? The hacker asked, his voice calm but edged with irritation. How did you get past my defenses? Rami stepped forward. We are humans. We see, we think, and we act. You relied on machines, but you underestimated the human mind. That is your mistake. The hacker's eyes narrowed. Machines do not make mistakes. Humans are limited, slow, unpredictable. I trusted the systems to do what you cannot. Tano shook his head. Humans are more than you imagine. We notice, we adapt, we solve problems. Machines follow rules. We create rules. That is the difference. Without warning, the hacker activated the defenses. Drones moved to block the intruders. Lasers formed grids across the floor, and robotic arms sprang to life, ready to trap them. The room became a maze of danger in seconds. Rami and Tano moved quickly. Tano signaled Rami to follow him to the left, avoiding the first set of drones. He used shadows and angles, moving in ways machines could not predict. Rami followed, using his knowledge of AI to anticipate the drone's movements and avoid contact. The hacker watched, frustrated. "You cannot defeat technology with human weakness," he shouted. Tano glanced back. "Human weakness? We have courage, intelligence, and instinct. You cannot measure what you do not understand." They advanced further into the chamber, dodging lasers and disabling drones with quick, precise movements. Tano used small tools to interfere with the drone's sensors, while Rami hacked the terminals to shut down the automated arms. Together, they combined human skill and technical knowledge in a seamless way. The hacker tried to regain control. He typed rapidly, sending commands to every system in the lab. The drones accelerated, the lasers shifted, and the robotic arms extended further. But every action he took was countered by human improvisation. Tano anticipated the movement of each arm. Rami predicted the drone patterns, and together they avoided every trap. "This is impossible," the hacker muttered. "No human could move so fast, think so clearly, and act without error." Tano smiled faintly. "Humans are capable of more than you believe. You rely on rules and repetition. We rely on observation and adaptation. That is why we succeed." As they approached the central terminal, Rami accessed the main system, isolating the hacker's controls. The screens flickered as the drones lost their connection. Lasers deactivated, robotic arms stopped, and the room fell into quiet. The hacker's face showed disbelief. "You cannot win," he said. Rami shook his head. "Humans already have. We do not rely on fear or control. We rely on courage, reasoning, and action. That is how we survive and succeed." Tano stepped forward, disabling the last of the security systems. "Your machines are powerful," he said, "but your arrogance is your weakness. Technology is only as good as the humans who use it. You forgot that." The hacker realized the truth in Tano's words, but it was too late. All the systems were under control, every threat neutralized. He sank back into his chair, defeated not by machines, but by humans who use their minds, instincts, and courage to overcome the obstacles. Rami turned to Tano. "You have saved the city, and you have taught me a lesson about the power of human intelligence. I will make sure the authorities understand this. Your actions deserve recognition." Tano shook his head. "I do what I must. That is enough. But the city is safer because humans acted when machines were not enough. Remember that?" Rami nodded, filled with respect and admiration. He had seen the power of human courage firsthand. Wealth, technology, and intelligence were important, but observation, instinct, and moral courage could not be replaced. Humans were capable of extraordinary feats, especially when they worked together. Outside the lab, the city continued its rhythm. People walked on the streets, cars glided overhead, and neon signs flickered in the early morning light. None of them realized how close they had come to danger, or how two humans had stopped a disaster from unfolding. For Tano, the day was like any other. He had acted, he had observed, and he had succeeded. For Rami, it was a moment of humility and respect. Together, they had proven that human ingenuity could overcome even the most sophisticated technology, and that courage and quick thinking were invaluable in a world increasingly ruled by machines. As they left the lab and returned to the city streets, Rami looked around at the bustling life. He understood that the future depended not only on machines, AI, and technology, but also on humans who could act when others could not. Tano had reminded him of a simple truth. Humans could make the difference even against the most advanced threats. And in the quiet corners of the city, shadows stirred. The mastermind had been defeated, but others might follow. Yet Rami and Tano were ready. They had proven their strength, their courage, and their ingenuity. They had shown that humans were capable of extraordinary feats, and that the future could be shaped not only by machines, but by the human spirit that guided them. The confrontation had ended, but the lessons remained. Humans were not weak. They were intelligent, brave, and resourceful, and in a city filled with technology, that was more powerful than any machine. The city had returned to its normal rhythm. Flying vehicles glided smoothly above the towers, their lights tracing arcs in the sky. On the streets below, people moved with the steady energy of early morning. The danger that had almost threatened countless lives was over, neutralized by human courage and quick thinking. Yet few in the city would ever know how close disaster had come. Rami and Tano walked side by side through the streets. The billionaire's mind was still racing, replaying the events of the past 2 days. He had always relied on technology, on algorithms and machines to solve problems. But tonight he had seen something far more powerful: the ingenuity, perception, and courage of humans. Tano, a simple janitor in the eyes of the world, had proven that ordinary people could perform extraordinary feats. "You know," Rami said, breaking the silence, "I have worked with the smartest engineers, the most advanced AI, and the best technology money can buy. But last night I learned a lesson that no machine could teach me." Tano looked at him, his expression calm. "What lesson is that?" "That humans are not limited by rules, by patterns, or by technology. We can adapt. We can notice things machines cannot. We can act when others hesitate. And one human can make the difference for many." Tano nodded. "It is true. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but that is a strength. Machines follow rules. We can break rules, create new ways, and survive. That is what makes us powerful." Rami smiled. "You saved my life, Tano, and not just mine. You saved many others. You deserve recognition." Tano shook his head. "I do not need recognition. I only do what must be done. That is enough." But Rami was determined. He knew that society often overlooked people like Tano, who worked quietly and bravely behind the scenes. "I will make sure people know," he said. "I will tell everyone what you did. You will be respected not just by me but by the city." They walked in silence for a while, the city awakening around them. Rami's mind wandered to the future. He had been planning space missions, AI projects, and technological advancements. But now he realized that no matter how advanced technology became, it would always need humans to guide it, observe it, and act wisely. By midday, Rami had organized a meeting in his office overlooking the city. Tano accompanied him, quiet but attentive. Rami addressed a group of engineers, officials, and journalists, recounting the events that had unfolded. He spoke not of his own wealth or expertise, but of the bravery and quick thinking of a janitor who had noticed something others overlooked. "Technology is powerful," Rami said, "but it is not perfect. Machines can be hacked, manipulated, or fail unexpectedly. What saved the city was not a program or a robot. It was human awareness, courage, and intelligence. Today, I want to recognize a person who reminds us of that truth." "Tano, please stand." Tano stood, humble but proud. The room fell silent. Cameras captured the moment and reporters scribbled notes quickly. Engineers who had worked with Rami for years looked on with surprise and respect. The man who had once been invisible to the world was now recognized for saving countless lives. "You saved my life," Rami continued, "but you also saved the lives of people who never even knew they were in danger. Your courage, perception, and action remind us all that humans are capable of extraordinary things." "Thank you, Tano." Tano bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir. I only did what anyone should do. I noticed a danger and I acted. Humans can always choose to act, and that is enough." After the ceremony, Rami invited Tano to work alongside him on a new initiative. He wanted to create programs that combined advanced technology with human observation and intuition. Together, they would build systems that were not just smart, but also guided by human judgment and courage. "You do not have to leave your work," Rami said. "You can continue what you love, but your insight is invaluable. I want to learn from you, and I want the city to learn from you." Tano agreed, understanding that this was an opportunity to make a difference on a larger scale. He would continue to observe, notice, and act, but now with the resources to prevent danger before it could threaten others. Days turned into weeks, and the city slowly returned to its usual rhythm. People went about their lives unaware of the catastrophe that had been prevented. Drones flew overhead, vehicles moved seamlessly, and the lights of the towers reflected in puddles on the streets. But the lesson remained. Humans were the true strength behind every machine. Rami often visited Tano in his old job at the building. He would find him sweeping the floors, quiet and diligent, yet his eyes always alert. Despite the recognition and the new opportunities, Tano continued to act with the same dedication and humility. He did not need praise, but he understood its value in showing the world that human courage mattered. One evening, as the sun set behind the towers, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Rami and Tano walked together along the streets. Rami turned to him. I have been thinking about the future. Space travel, AI, and advanced cities are important, yes. But the real strength of our world lies in humans who act when others cannot, who notice what others ignore, and who have the courage to face danger. Tano nodded. It is true. Machines can follow instructions, but humans can decide, adapt, and act. That is our power, Rami smiled. And now, thanks to you, I understand that better than ever. The future of technology will always need humans like you, who can guide it, watch it, and act when necessary. Tano returned the smile, though it was quiet and reserved. I will continue to do what I can. Humans must always be vigilant, ready to act. That is all anyone can do. The city lights reflected in their eyes as they walked, two humans standing together in a world of technology. One was wealthy, experienced, and visionary. The other was a janitor, humble, observant, and brave. Together they had proven that human courage, intelligence, and action could overcome even the most sophisticated threats. In the following months, Rami launched a program to train and recognize ordinary citizens who showed extraordinary perception and courage. Tano became an advisor, teaching people how to observe, notice, and act effectively. The city became safer, not just because of machines or systems, but because humans were empowered to make a difference. The mastermind who had tried to control the city's machines was caught and held accountable. His plans were carefully documented and used to improve security protocols. But Rami always emphasized that it had been human courage and insight that had truly saved the day. Tano returned to his work in the building he had always cared for. He continued sweeping, cleaning, and maintaining order, but now he did so with recognition, respect, and a quiet influence over city safety initiatives. People passed by, some knowing who he was, some unaware, but his work continued with the same dedication. Rami often visited, discussing new projects, sharing ideas, and learning from Tano's insights. They worked together to create a balance between technology and humanity, showing that machines alone could not solve all problems. Human observation, reasoning, and courage were the real foundation of progress. One evening, as they watched the city from the rooftop of a high tower, Rami turned to Tano. The world is changing faster than ever. Machines will advance, technology will evolve, and cities will grow. But humans like you will always be necessary. You remind me that the future is not just about what we build, but how we act, notice, and think. Tano smiled quietly. Humans are capable of more than most realize. We must act when others cannot, and notice when others overlook. That is our strength, Rami nodded. And thanks to you, the city will be safer, smarter, and stronger. Not just because of technology, but because of humans who choose to act. As the sun set completely, painting the horizon in deep oranges and purples, the two men stood side by side. The city buzzed below them, full of life, unaware of the dangers that had been avoided. But Rami and Tano knew the truth. Human courage, intelligence, and quick action had saved countless lives. In a world filled with machines, algorithms, and AI, it was humans who made the difference. Humans who noticed, humans who acted, and humans who had the courage to face the unknown. And Tano, the janitor who had saved a billionaire, reminded the world of a simple truth. Humans were capable of extraordinary things when they paid attention, acted bravely, and refused to be limited by fear. The story ended not with machines, but with humans. Humans who were strong, brave, and clever. Humans who could shape the future. And in the heart of the city, one humble janitor continued his work, eyes always alert, ready to act again if needed. The city was safer, not because of technology alone, but because humans had proven their power.